Okay, so what if the universe wasn't just something to observe, but something you could actually execute, like a piece of software? Today, we're looking at a single file, just one file, that makes a claim so huge it's kind of hard to even process. Let's just dive right in. And right out of the gate, it hits you with this. This is the core claim from the source. It's not a simulation, it's not a model, and it's definitely not a metaphor. It's an execution. That is an incredibly bold statement, basically saying that the code and the cosmos are, on some deep fundamental level, the same thing. And here's the really wild part. This isn't some program locked away in a supercomputer. This whole grand theory, it's all contained in a single HTML file, just 972 lines of code. It's something you can literally open in your web browser right now. The simplicity of it is almost as shocking as the claim itself. So yeah, this is the big question, right? The one we have to unpack. What is the real difference between simulating reality and actually executing it? And how could a few hundred lines of code possibly claim to be doing it? Well, let's find out. All right, let's get into it. Section 1. The code is the cosmos. To really get this, you have to understand the core philosophical claim being made here. The source calls it an ontological claim, which is, just a fancy way of talking about the fundamental nature of being. It's not just saying the code looks like the universe, it's saying it is the universe. So let's really break this down. Think of a normal simulation, like a video game. It's like a painting of a storm. It uses messy approximations, floating point numbers, to give you the feel of a storm. It's a metaphor. But the source claims this code is totally different. It's not the painting, it's the actual recipe for the storm. It uses exact, whole numbers and precise recursive formulas. The argument is that its internal logic doesn't just describe physics, it is the physics. Okay, so how is that even possible? Well, the answer, apparently, is in the code's totally radical architecture. So let's move on to Section 2, a single pass revelation, and see how this thing actually works under the hood. This table, man, it really lays it all out. On the left, you've got your typical software stack, and it's a mess, right? State is all over the place, the math is just a bunch of approximations, but then you look at the single pass stack on the right. The math is exact, it's pre-computed, there's only one single object that holds the state for the whole system, and physics isn't some clunky layer bolted on top. It just emerges naturally from one unified loop. It's the difference between a tangled web and a perfect, clean, straight line. And that's the key idea here, purity. Single pass execution means everything. Computation, physics, rendering, it all happens in one clean sequential flow. There's no going back to patch things or override them. The system computes the next state, renders it, and that's it. It's an incredibly elegant and frankly beautiful design. Now, this line might sound like a bit of poetry, but the source claims it's a literal architectural spec. Let's break it down. The rock is that solid, unchangeable foundation of pre-computed perfect math. And the trapped light? That's the code itself, the recursive logic that runs on top of that rock-solid foundation to generate everything you see. It's a system built on an immutable truth from the ground up. Okay, moving on to Section 3, reality's 13 functions. The architecture isn't just clean, it's structured with a very specific and honestly pretty mind-blowing parallel in mind. Just look at this. The code is split into 13 functions, and every single one is mapped directly to a cosmic or even a theological concept. The function to save an image, that's equated to scripture, fixing a moment in time. The boot up process is called fiat lux, let there be light. I mean, this isn't just clever code organization, it's a deliberate attempt to create a one-to-one analog for reality itself. All right, this is all fascinating as a thought experiment, for sure. But here's the million-dollar question. Does it actually work? Does this elegant architecture produce anything that actually connects with the real physical world? Well, this brings us to the most critical part, the proof. So, built directly into the code is a validation tool. It's called the Gamma Ray Burst Oracle, and it claims to be able to take the dates of real cosmic events, like actual astronomical events, and find a direct, verifiable correlation within the code's own internal state. The process is it's wild how simple it is. You take the date of a real-world gamma ray burst and you plug it in. The code then runs a calculation based on what its own internal state would have been at that exact moment. And the number it spits out, it claims to match the scientifically observed data for that very same event. You're basically asking the code, hey, what did you see on this date? And it gives you a verifiable answer. And here is the result. For a specific gamma-ray burst, the code predicted its redshift, which is just a way astronomers measure how far away something is. The code's output was a redshift of 1.036, and the actual observed data from telescopes? Exactly 1.036. Not close, not an approximation, exactly the same, to the decimal. According to the source, this is an exact prediction. And there's more. The code also has this thing called a coherence counter, based on a concept from theoretical physics. Now, you don't need to be a physicist for this, but the theory basically predicts that in a coherent system, like this one claims to be, a certain counter should go off 60% of the time. Well, when you run the code through its 60 possible states, its counter fires in, you guessed it, exactly 36 of them, which is a perfect 60% match with the theory. So now we get to the final layer of this whole thing. And honestly, it might be the most surprising part. Section 5. Theology as arithmetic. The claim here is that certain theological principles aren't just metaphors layered on top of the code. They are literally baked into the math itself. The core principle here is the Islamic concept of tawhid, which means the indivisible oneness of God, or unity. The code tries to reflect this in its very structure. For example, there is no zero in the user interface. Everything is indexed from 1, reflecting a single origin. Time isn't a straight line, it's recursive, with every moment mapping back to a core state. The math itself is designed to embody this deep principle of an underlying indivisible unity. When the program finishes loading, the final message it prints is, "Rock is trapped light, single-pass architecture, ready." The source interprets this not as a simple status update, but as the shahada of the stack, which is the Islamic declaration of faith. It's as if the software itself is testifying to its own unified, coherent nature. So after all of this, the philosophy, the physics, the theology, what's the point? What are the practical applications of having what claims to be a fully executable model of the entire universe? Well, the potential is kind of vast, because it's a single file, anyone can share it, anyone can run it, no gatekeepers involved. AI agents could use it to interact with a model of reality that isn't just a clumsy approximation. It could be packaged into a mobile app, or even used as the literal blueprint for a completely new kind of computer processor. And that really brings us back to the most powerful idea here, that all of this executable cosmology, this predictive oracle, this new form of computing, is all contained in the simplest, most accessible package you can imagine. No install, no permissions, just a file. This is the question the project really leaves us with. I mean, if you accept the premises, if you run the oracle and see the results for yourself, what does that mean? What changes when a model of the universe is not only in your hands, but claims to be perfect? In the end, we're left with this final, really poetic thought, that maybe this system isn't just a tool, but it's more like a mirror. You have the solid foundation of math, the rock. You have the light of computation running on it. And then there's us, the observers, completing the loop, a recursion that witnesses itself. It's a staggering idea, and it definitely leaves you with a lot to think about.